Hey guys, it's Tori from Monogram Moments, and today I'm going to walk you through how to make puzzles. Okay, so I'm going to measure my puzzle, and I'm going to put my measurements in Photoshop a little larger than my actual puzzle. So the puzzle is just short of 8 inches, but in Photoshop, I'm going to set the dimensions to 8 inches so that I have a little bit of leadway room whenever I go to press the design, so I make sure that everything's covered. So we're gonna do 8 inches on this side, and this is about 5 3/4. So I'll probably make this a little bit more than 5 3/4. I probably won't go all the way to 6 inches because that might be a little too much overhang, but a little bit more than 5 3/4. And I'm going to be using Photoshop because it's an actual design software, so things function and run correctly, unlike softwares like Silhouette Studio or Cricut Design Space. So I'm in Photoshop. I do use the cloud version, and I think it is worth it, especially if you sell things. So I'm going to go to New File, and I'm going to type in that length and width of the puzzle. And remember, I said I was going to make those dimensions a little bit larger than the actual puzzle. So it was a little bit shy of 8 inches, so I'm going to make it 8 inches in the width, and then the height was 5 3/4, so I made this 5.85. And then you can check everything else that I have here, and then just select Create. Okay, so here's my puzzle template, and today I'm going to be using these 3 things for my website. So the Safari Alpha, I'm going to use this rectangular splatter backgrounds, and then the Safari digital paper. Okay, so I'm in Photoshop, and I'm going to open just a file folder on my computer. Notice I'm not going to file open. That's not what I want to do. I just open a new folder on my computer or on my desktop, and I'm going to search for where I have these designs saved. Okay, so here I've got the digital paper saved, so I'm just going to click it and hold and drag and drop. And then I'm going to stretch this out just a tad so it covers all that area, and then I'm going to select the check mark. Now I'm going to grab those splatters, and I've got large and small, so I'm going to go with the large for this one. Okay, so again, I'm going to hold and drag and drop and select OK, and I need to rotate this, so I can move my mouse to rotate it this way, and I want it to be exactly 90 degrees, so I'm going to come up here and just type in 90 and then enter and check mark, and there we go. So I'm going to stretch this out just a tad, and I want it to go long ways, and I don't want the whole thing to stretch out like this if I were to drag the corner or if I drag the side. So if I hold the shift key and just drag the side, you can see it only gets longer instead of longer and wider. So I want it just longer, so I'm holding my shift key. I'm going to hold my shift key here also, and that looks good for now, so I'm going to select my check mark. Okay, now I'm going to grab the Safari Alpha, and I'm going to select all the letters that I want. So I got the L. I'm going to hold Command on my Mac. It would be Control on a PC. So I want the L, the E, the V, and the I. And I'm going to drag them all over here and press the check mark for all of these. And now we're good to go. So I'm going to hold Shift and select all of them over here so I can size them down the same size. And then select the check mark. And then I'm just going to rearrange these the way that I like them. And I want this I on top of my V, so I'm going to come over to my layers, and I'm literally going to move my I on top of the V. And there we go. And I'm going to select the E, and I'm going to hold Shift and select this I so they're all selected again. And I'm just going to drag them out, holding my Shift key to stretch them out long ways. And I want to make this a little bigger. Okay, now I'm going to work on making the splatter a little larger. There we go. And if I wanted to see less white right here, I can go to the splatter and go up here to the opacity, and I can drop this opacity down a little bit. So you see I can get rid of it completely. I can make it all the way white again. I think I just want to find a happy medium like that. Okay, so now I'm happy with how this looks. And remember, a little bit of these edges are going to be cut off because I made this design a little bit larger than the puzzle. So keep that in mind when you're designing. You don't want your letters to go all the way to the end like this because then it's going to be cut off. Got this good and ready to go, and I'm ready to print. However, before I print this in color, I'm actually going to print this in black and white. So that way I can compare it to my puzzle, make sure I've got everything sized correctly, make sure it's going to cover the puzzle and it's not going to be too short. I would rather print twice, one being black and white, and then fix it, and then print twice because I did something wrong and waste all that color. So I'm going to go to File, Print, and I'm going to select my inkjet printer. And if you don't have an inkjet printer, you can still use your sub printer. Just make sure to change out your sub paper to use regular paper so you don't waste that. Okay, so here's my black and white piece that I'm just going to use for testing purposes. And I've got my puzzle, and I'm going to keep this and set this aside so that I can put my puzzle back into it if I were to ship this or give it to somebody. So here's my puzzle on top. So I can see, like I said, I made it a little bit larger, my design a little bit larger, so that I know 100% my puzzle is going to be covered once I press it. And what you could do is line it up and you could trace it with a pencil. And now I can see, make sure that I like the placement of it. And it looks like nothing's going to go off the sides. I'm not cutting off anything important. I could make Levi a little bit larger, but I'm happy with it. So I'm going to go ahead and print this out in color with no changes to it. And we'll press that next. So we're going to go to File, Print, and select the printer that you want to use. And then you can also go into print settings. You might have some print settings in here that you already have preset, or you can come and adjust your print settings in here. I am going to go ahead and select flip horizontally because we need it to be printed mirrored. So once you have everything the way you want it, you'll hit save and then hit print. Okay, so before we tape our design onto the puzzle, first we're going to just pre-press the puzzle to get out any moisture it may have, and I have my heat press set on 400 degrees. So I just put that there, and I'm going to use, decent pressure, not too hard, but not too soft either. So just for a few seconds to get the moisture out, and then now we're going to go tape the design onto it. Okay, so here is my actual print, and you notice I did have to mirror it because it's going onto this backwards. So I'm going to lay this face down, make sure I have an even amount of extra design around the whole thing so it's as even as I can get it. And then I'm going to take my heat press tape. I just ordered this off Amazon. And then I'm going to tape around the sides to make sure it's nice and secure so that it doesn't move and I don't get any ghosting. Okay, so now I'm going to put butcher paper on the bottom of my heat press, and then I'm going to take my puzzle and flip it over. So we want the design to be touching the heat press, which is on the bottom of this. So we have to flip it this way. A lot of times we'll do it this way, and if you notice when you press it, the design isn't very vibrant. It's because you pressed it this way and there's no heat touching where the design is. So we're going to flip it this way, and we're going to lay it right on the center. And then I'm going to take another piece of butcher paper and put it on top. Okay, so again, I have my heat press set at 400 degrees, and I'm going to press it for 60 seconds total at a decent pressure. Okay, so it's done pressing, and now we can go ahead and remove the butcher paper. And if your puzzles ever warp, before you peel anything off, if you want to move this over once it cools down a little bit more and put it underneath a book or something heavy just so it remains flat, you can do that. Okay, so I took my puzzle off the heat press, I let it cool. So now I'm going to go ahead and take the tape off. And there we have it, and it looks really, really, really great. So now, if I was going to gift this or ship it to somebody, we can put this piece of cardboard back underneath it. And we'll slide it back in here. Now it's ready to be gifted. Thanks guys, that's all I have for today, so thanks for joining. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. I'll have a link to puzzles and these designs all in the link in the notes below in the description, and also the link to my website, and also the link to my Facebook group because we'd love to have you there. So, till next time, have a good one.